listeners, why have you been hearing so much about Dermatol, the all-natural, all-purpose first aid spray? Because it's the must-have first aid product you need in your preparedness kit. Dermatol is made in America by Americans who know there's a more affordable, natural way to treat cuts, burns, bites, rashes, shingles, boils, and many other skin problems. Dermatol is gentle enough for diaper rash, powerful enough for bed sores, and harmless to the eyes and mouth. It's great for the whole family, even your family pets. Dermatol is antimicrobial, antifungal, antiviral, and not diminished by freezing, extreme heat, or years in storage. Dermatol is an absolute must for any first aid or preparedness kit. Dermatol's soothing, rapid restoration of injured skin is so effective, it's guaranteed. Order yours today. Call 800-217-6677. 800-217-6677. That's 800-217-6677. Efficient, economical, effective. Spray it all with Dermatol.
Hundreds of nations have fallen to tyranny in the last century alone. This is our last chance to not relive history.
As they're finishing off this agenda, they'll be pulling the rug from underneath Americans at home.
I have tremendous influence on our president and Congress, and they really are calling the shots.
I think it's incumbent upon all of us as American citizens to pay attention.
Fall of the Republic identifies the enemies of our nation, the criminal offshore cartel, hell-bent on destroying sovereignty, and on its ashes constructing world government.
Tim Geithner, Bernanke, they're arsonists. They're asking for more matches. And the Congress is saying, who do we make the check out to?
Today, seems like nobody does care. And right now in Washington, D.C., we have seen a fall of the Republic.
Get your copy of Fall of the Republic on DVD at Infowars.com or watch it online right now in super high quality at prisonplanet.tv. There's a man named Dr. Wallach who is anything but your typical doctor. Both a veterinarian and naturopathic physician, Doc asks, why does the United States spend more money on health care by far and still rank 50th in health and longevity worldwide? He believes that people should empower themselves with a basic understanding of nutrition, taking charge of their life, and attain optimal health and longevity through nutrition, not by toxic prescription drugs leading to side effects. This is clearly a deadly recipe. The good news is Doc Wallach's message is resonating with an increasing number of Americans who are waking up to all the big government and big pharma manipulation of our healthcare system. I like what Doc Wallach is saying and doing to enlighten people about healthcare and have joined forces to help this tireless crusader spread his message. Visit InfoWarsTeam.com and listen to Dr. Wallach's Deadly Recipes lecture. It makes a lot of sense, and I want you to join our InfoWars team. Go to InfoWarsTeam.com. That's InfoWarsTeam.com.
We are on the march. The Empire is on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
See, it's happening right now. I was going to do a few minutes extra overdrive to take some calls, and then a caller, that's why I love taking calls, brings up an issue I didn't know about. During the break, I went and looked it up. We're going to play the audio here in a moment. Rand Paul, deport the Tea Partiers. And the fella called in with a similar headline. That's not exactly what he said, but I disagree with what he did say. Even though it's a very short clip and I've got to do some more research, it doesn't sound good. And I've seen him stand up against the Patriot Act, stand up against the wars, the debt ceiling. He's done everything he said he would do, and I've been very pleased. But this is not something you hear Ron Paul say. The Kentucky senator calls for those who attend radical political speeches to be jailed. That's the Salon headline, and I didn't know about this. This happened. This happened a few weeks ago. Yeah, this happened back in actually back in June. So, and when you actually get the quote, he was saying it wouldn't be that they're Islamic. But if someone is attending speeches from someone who is promoting the violent overthrow of the government, that's really an offense that we should be going after. They should be deported or put in prison. Now, wait a minute. If you're saying we should throw all the bums out, we have a criminal government occupying us, and if the government continues to stomp on our liberties, it's our right, our duty to remove that government and institute a new one. And that's Declaration of Independence. And he needs to clarify himself on this. And then, of course, they go on to say, oh, if they want the violent overthrow of the government, well, then lock up all Tea Party rally attendees. So it's bad enough to say arrest somebody who calls for the violent overthrow of the government. I mean, if you say the government's corrupt, we have a right to, defend our liberties, and if this government gets pushy, we have a right to do that physically. That's 1776. And, we've had discussions about when is the proper time for that. There's no doubt it's our right and duty and freedom if we decide that that's the time under the Declaration of Independence. If you don't believe in that, you don't believe in the Declaration of Independence and July 4th. I mean, that's why we have July 4th, 1776. So read the Declaration of Independence. And but continuing here, to say that people that are attending, what if you're just walking down the mall at the there in D.C. and you hear a speech and it's say some type of radical speaker, whether they're Muslim, Christian, whatever the case is, atheist, and they talk about the government keeps getting pushy, we're going to have 1776 and go to the cartridge box. If you heard somebody hypothetically say that, would everyone there be arrested and deported? That's a dangerous talk. Now, this is only 38 seconds long, and it's from Think Progress, which has been George Soros funded in my research. So I've got to find out more and try to find the original archive of this back in June to see if this is accurate, because I've had different groups edit together what I've said before. So we'll have to investigate this. But since the guy brought it up, we're discussing it. Let's go ahead and play that clip.
Now you've set yourself up to be called a bigot because now you want to profile people at the airport. Well, no, you can't win, Rand. I mean, they've got an answer for everything.
But here's the thing, Sean, is I'm not for profiling people on the color of their skin or on their religion, but I would take into account where they've been traveling, and perhaps you might have to indirectly take into account whether or not they've been going to radical political speeches by religious leaders, but it wouldn't be that they are Islamic. But if someone is attending speeches from someone who is promoting the violent overthrow of our government, that's really an offense that we should be going after. They should be deported or put in prison.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Jaron was popping in my ear saying chickens come home to roost, and Obama and Reverend Wright, and Reverend Wright's chicken comes home to roost speech. Now I remember that. Absolutely. So are we saying deport or arrest Reverend Wright, but also Obama? Or I've heard, wow, that's a good point, Jaron. Now, I do hear the context now. They're talking about TSA. They're talking about profiling at airports. And they're talking about should it go into account that if somebody is part of a group, basically, calling for violence, and he's implying outside groups. But we'll have to get a clarification. I bet there's a clarification, because if I missed this in the last month, I'm sure this has already been debated. See, folks, that's why your calls are important, your emails are important. We miss a lot of things. A lot of times I get an email or I see a comment on my website, Infowars.com. Why haven't you covered this, Alex? You're covering it up. And I cover it that day because you told me about it. I mean, I'm not omnipresent. I don't know what my children are doing right now with my wife. I mean, I don't know what folks in the back of the office are doing. But I'm glad the caller brought that up. But let me hear that clip one more time, because I want to hear it, and I wish I had it in full context. This is with You're a Great American, Sean Hannity. Being sarcastic, he always says, you're a great American. Here it is.
Now you've set yourself up to be called a bigot because now you want to profile people at the airport. Well, no, you can't win, Rand. I mean, they've got an answer for everything.
But here's the thing, Sean, is I'm not for profiling people on the color of their skin or on their religion, but I would take into account where they've been traveling, and perhaps you might have to indirectly take into account whether or not they've been going to radical political speeches by religious leaders, but it wouldn't be that they are Islamic. But if someone is attending speeches from someone who is promoting the violent overthrow of our government, that's really an offense that we should be going after. They should be deported or put in prison.
Yeah, no, he's talking now, because clearly that context was about Muslim, quote, extremist. He's talking about people coming into the country and profiling and deporting them if they're calling for violence. And I'm sure when I do find his clarification, because I'm sure this was a big issue that we missed, that's what he meant by it. But it's still doesn't pass the smell test, does it? So I will have to look into that. I got time to jam in a few more calls, but really quick, folks. I'd love to talk for hours, but I've got to get in there and work on the new TV show. I've got to get in there and work on all the other stuff we're doing. I got to get this stuff honchoed. Let's talk to Matthew in Tennessee. Matthew, what do you think of that clip you just heard?
Oh, man, there's all sorts of stuff that you can hear that's people trying to be politically correct, people trying to say the right thing without saying the right thing.
Yeah. What'd you call about?
Well, we got 3 issues that we could potentially get to, but maybe not enough time. Issue number 1, the resistance. Many people have recognized that the Republic has fallen. They feel isolated. They feel frustrated. One way to contact other people in the resistance, wear an Infowars T-shirt. Wear an Infowars T-shirt, talk to people, form the resistance cells. Number 2 tactic for the resistance. Contact people currently in the military by writing to them. There is a great fear amongst those who are in the hierarchy that the United States military will not turn on the United States people. Number 2, the eugenics war. In the eugenics war, we've seen this going on for a long time, since the days of Noah. One of the things that we know is that when you manipulate the genome, it degrades. We found that with Dolly the sheep. Even with an identical genome, it degrades. Now, let us consider that the manipulation of the genome has happened on this planet before with what you had referenced earlier, the sons of God. Not the sons of Adam, sons of God. Interpret it as you will. They are not around right now, but we have a record of them as the giants. What I am postulating is that when you see people who are designed with blonde hair and blue eyes, when the genome is corrupted, if you can get the corruption attached to a recessive trait, then you can breed out that recessive trait by breeding it with dominant traits. So if you have a corrupted genome that has a quality that you like intelligence, breed it with someone with blonde hair and blue eyes and other recessive traits. When you breed that person with another person with dominant traits, you can breed out the corrupted traits. Number 3, what does God say about global warming? And the 4th angel poured out his bowl on the sun, and the sun was given power to scorch people with fire, and they were seared with intense heat.
Yeah, but the Bible says the sun heats the earth. Modern scientists have disproven that. The sun does not heat the earth, according to Al Gore and the UN.
Well, and not only that, but we know from the Bible that they refuse to repent and glorify him, meaning if you have the spirit of Antichrist, you worship man and not God. So if you worship man and not God, and God is causing the global warming, the spirit of Antichrist will compel you to blame global warming on man.
All right. Listen, I appreciate your call. I want to jam in one more. I'm sorry to Keller, Matt, and John. JC in New Mexico, you're our tail gunner, taking us out.
Hey, Alex, how you doing?
I'm good, my friend.
Excellent. I just have a real quick question because, I've been a long-time fan, first-time caller. I've listened to you, however, for, the last couple of years. I've seen a lot of your research. I think you're doing an incredible job spreading the real information out there, the info war going on and everything. But I do have one question because even though I've listened to you, great, coverage on everything, I want to know, what is your mission? What is your purpose for having your show been on for a long, long time now, having millions and millions of people who listen to your show and can do positive things with your information? But what is your mission? What do you want to, accomplish in the next, 5 years? Because this window of time we have is...
it's funny. I had an hour-long meeting yesterday with some of my crew about codifying our principles and really stating them simply and then hammering them every day, especially on the upcoming TV show, so people simply know what we stand for. But it's really simple at the end of the day. I believe in humanity. I believe in people having knowledge and not perishing, whether it's economically, physically, spiritually. And so I'm here to cover the hypocrisy, cover the corruption, cover history, and point out how we're distracted, but knowing that there are going to be great leaders and people out there in society who are in the system, who are outside of the system, who will recognize what's happening. I'm here to break the compartmentalization. I'm here to get people to see outside the little fake boxes they've been put in and to encourage other media people. I mean, most media folks you see out there fighting the New World Order now, they'll say they were inspired by Alex Jones. Most people you talk to will say Alex Jones was the first person who woke me up. There were many people that helped wake me up. But I have, except for maybe a Ron Paul, had the greatest effect. And so that's my mission, is just to simply point out what's happening. We'll be back after this break with retransmission. See you back tomorrow live, 11 a.m. Central.
David J. Smith for Newswatch Magazine. Did you know that the Obama administration, including Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, are working with the United Nations and the Arms Trade Treaty? This would eventually make all firearms subject to international law. This would obliterate our Second Amendment right to bear arms that protects us from tyranny. The United Nations will become a communist tyranny over our country.